The morning sun of Kepler 442b painted the sky in shades of purple and gold. Governor Kang Min-ho stood on his balcony, watching the bustling streets of New Seoul Colony below. Children of different species ran together through the market squares. Human kids played alongside young Viridians whose crystal skin sparkled in the sunlight. Thalasan children splashed in the water fountains while Chitauri, youngsters clicked and chirped in their musical language. This was everything Min-ho had dreamed of when he first proposed the colony 15 years ago. Back then the Earth Council had called him crazy. Humans and aliens living together? It will never work, they said. But here was the proof. 2,300,000 humans called New Seoul home, and they shared their world with 400,000 alien residents. Min-ho walked through the government building's halls toward his office. The walls displayed photos of the colony's achievements. There was the Joint Research Center where human and Viridian scientists worked together to cure diseases. The fusion power plant designed by Thalasan engineers provided clean energy for everyone. The agricultural domes created by Chitauri farmers grew food that could feed both human and alien populations. "Good morning, Governor," said his assistant, Park Hyo-jin, as he entered the main office. She handed him his daily reports. "The morning briefing is ready." Min-ho sat at his desk and reviewed the colony's status. Population growth was steady. Crime rates were at an all-time low. Trade with other worlds brought in enough money to fund new schools and hospitals. The Harmony Index, which measured how well different species got along, was at 97%. A knock on the door interrupted his reading. "Come in," Min-ho called. His daughter Lee So-young entered the room. She wore the blue uniform of the Xenobiology Department, with patches showing the symbols of all 4 species on the colony. Her long black hair was tied back and her eyes sparkled with excitement. "Dad, you have to see what we discovered today," So-young said, placing a data pad on his desk. The Viridian research team found traces of an ancient civilization in the northern mountains. The ruins are over 50,000 years old. Min-ho smiled at his daughter's enthusiasm. So-young had always been fascinated by alien cultures. Even as a child, she spent more time with her Chitauri friends than with humans. Now, as the colony's chief xenobiologist, she was helping to unlock the secrets of their new world. "That's wonderful news," Min-ho said. "What do the other species think about it?" "Everyone's excited. The Thalasan historians want to study the water systems. The Chitauri are interested in the building techniques, and the Viridians think they might be able to communicate with any remaining energy patterns." Before Min-ho could respond, his communication device beeped. The caller was Park Tae-won, the colony's defense coordinator. Tae-won rarely called unless something was wrong. "Governor, we need to talk." Tae-won's voice was tense. "I'm coming to your office now." Minutes later, Tae-won entered the room. He was a tall man with gray hair and worried eyes. Unlike most colony officials, Tae-won had served in Earth's military before coming to New Seoul. He always seemed to expect trouble, even during the most peaceful times. "Sir, our long-range sensors have detected something unusual," Tae-won said, activating a holographic display. "A fleet of unknown ships is approaching our system. They're still 3 days away, but their trajectory is aimed directly at us." So-young moved closer to study the display. "How many ships?" "Approximately 200 vessels. The energy signatures don't match any known alien species in our database." Min-ho felt a chill run down his spine, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Have you tried to make contact?" "We've sent several messages on all standard frequencies." "No response yet. Keep trying," Min-ho ordered. "Prepare a first contact package with information about our colony and our peaceful intentions. Include cultural gifts from all 4 species." Tae-won nodded, but his expression remained worried. "Sir, I recommend we alert Earth Command and prepare our evacuation procedures." "That seems premature," Min-ho replied. "We've had peaceful first contact with dozens of species. There's no reason to assume these newcomers are hostile." After Tae-won left, So-young stayed behind. "Dad, what if they're not friendly?" Min-ho put his arm around his daughter's shoulder. "So-young, this colony exists because we chose to trust instead of fear. We've built something beautiful here. If these new visitors see what we've accomplished, how different species can live and work together, they'll want to join us, not hurt us." The next 2 days passed slowly. The approaching fleet maintained radio silence despite repeated attempts at communication. Tae-won grew more nervous, doubling the number of security patrols and testing the colony's emergency systems. The defense grid, designed mainly to deflect asteroids and space debris, was powered up for the first time in 5 years. Down in the Xenobiology Center, So-Young continued her work with alien researchers. Dr. Veltar, a Viridian scientist whose crystal body hummed with harmonic frequencies, was analyzing the mountain ruins. Researcher Flowing Tide, a thalassane with silver skin and large black eyes, was studying water samples from ancient underground rivers. The Chitauri archaeologist Six Legs Dancing examined tiny building fragments with her delicate insect-like hands. "The cooperation between our species is remarkable," Dr. Veltar said to So-Young. "In all my travels across the galaxy, I have never seen anything like New Sol. That's what makes this place special," So-Young replied. "We don't just tolerate each other. We learn from each other." On the third day, Kim Hae-jin, a young engineer, made an important discovery in the colony's technical center. He had been working on new hybrid technologies that combined human engineering with alien innovations. His latest project was a communication system that could translate thoughts between species. "So-Young, you need to see this," Hae-jin called excitedly. He showed her a device that looked like a silver headband. "If this works, we won't need translators anymore. Direct mind-to-mind communication between any species." The device represented everything New Sol stood for. Different species sharing knowledge to create something none of them could build alone. It was proof that cooperation was stronger than competition. That evening, the unknown fleet entered the outer edge of the solar system. The ships were massive, dark, and angular. Their design was unlike anything in the galactic databases. They moved in perfect formation like predators stalking prey. Governor Minho stood in the command center, surrounded by human and alien officials. Everyone watched the main screen as the fleet approached. The silence was broken only by the steady beeping of sensors and the quiet translations of alien languages. "Final attempt at communication," Taewon announced. "All frequencies, all languages." Minho stepped forward to the microphone. "Unknown vessels, this is Governor Kang Minho of New Sol Colony. We welcome you to our system. We are a peaceful community of humans and allied species. We offer friendship, trade, and cultural exchange. Please respond." The response came immediately. A harsh voice filled the command center, speaking in heavily accented but understandable human language. "This is War Commander Thekvar of the Vorthak Dominion. Your world has been marked for cleansing. Contaminated worlds where species mix must be purified. You have 1 hour to surrender all alien residents for processing." The command center fell silent. Minho felt his world crashing down around him. Everything he had built, everything they had achieved, was about to be destroyed by beings who couldn't understand that differences made them stronger, not weaker. "Send another message," Minho said quietly. "Tell them we refuse." The hour passed like a death sentence counting down. In the command center, Governor Kang Minho watched the Vorthak fleet spread across his system like a dark disease. 200 massive warships took positions around New Sol, blocking every escape route. War Commander Thekvar's voice crackled through the speakers again. "Your time is finished. Final warning. Surrender the contaminated aliens or face cleansing." Minho gripped the microphone with shaking hands. His voice was steady, but his heart was breaking. "This is Governor Kang Minho. New Sol Colony refuses your demands. The beings you call contaminated are our friends, our neighbors, our family. We will not abandon them." The response was immediate and terrible. "Then you have chosen extinction." The first plasma beams hit the colony's orbital stations. Bright flashes lit up the sky as communication satellites and defense platforms exploded like dying stars. The colony's shield generators, designed to protect against solar storms and small asteroids, lasted less than 3 minutes against military-grade weapons. "All evacuation ships, launch now," Park Taewon shouted into his communicator. He had prepared for this moment, even though he had hoped it would never come. 50 transport ships lifted off from hidden landing pads around the colony. In the Xenobiology Center, Lee So-Young grabbed her alien colleagues. "We need to get to the evacuation points now." Dr. Veltar's crystal body was pulsing with fear frequencies. "So-Young, my people have a saying. When harmony breaks, only chaos remains." "We'll build new harmony somewhere else," So-Young said, pulling the Viridian scientist toward the emergency exits. "But first we have to survive." The streets of New Sol filled with panic. Humans and aliens ran together toward the evacuation sites. Parents carried children of different species. Chitauri adults used their 6 arms to help elderly thalassanes move faster. Viridian healers stayed behind to help the wounded, even as plasma fire rained from the sky. At the spaceport, Kim Hae-jin worked frantically to load refugees onto the last transport ships. A group of Chitauri children clung to their human teacher as explosions shook the ground. "Don't be afraid," Hae-jin told them in their clicking language. "We're going home." "But this is home," one of the small Chitauri replied. Hae-jin felt tears in his eyes. "I know. I'm sorry." Park Tae-won managed to get 47 evacuation ships off the ground before the Vorthak fighters arrived. The enemy ships were fast and deadly, hunting down the fleeing transports like wolves chasing sheep. One by one, the evacuation ships were destroyed. Their explosions lit up the purple sky like terrible fireworks. Tae-won's ship was among the last to escape the atmosphere. He looked back at his home world and saw orbital bombardment beginning. Massive energy beams struck the planet's surface, turning cities into glass and forests into ash. "This is Transport 7 to any Earth forces," Tae-won broadcast on emergency frequencies. "New Sol Colony is under attack. Requesting immediate assistance. We have survivors aboard." A Vorthak fighter appeared on his sensors, closing fast. Tae-won pushed his ship's engines beyond safe limits, but it wasn't enough. The enemy ship fired once. Transport 7 exploded in a ball of fire, taking Tae-won and 50,000 refugees with it. Back on the planet, So-young reached the main communication center as buildings collapsed around her. The facility was damaged but still functional. She activated the emergency broadcast system that would send signals to Earth and every human colony. "This is Lee So-young, Chief Xenobiologist of New Sol Colony." She spoke into the recorder while explosions shook the building. "We are under attack by a species calling themselves the Vorthak Dominion. They are committing genocide against humans and aliens alike." The camera showed the chaos outside. Families running for shelter. Alien children crying in languages Earth had never heard. The beautiful mixed community being torn apart by hatred and fear. "The Vorthak say that cooperation between species is contamination," So-young continued. "They're wrong. What we built here was proof that different beings can live together, learn from each other, and create something better than any of us could make alone." A massive explosion rocked the building. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling. So-young kept talking. "For 15 years, New Sol was a symbol of hope. Human and alien children played together in our streets. Our scientists made discoveries that helped everyone. Our farmers fed 4 different species with crops that grew better because we shared knowledge. Outside, the orbital bombardment was turning the colony into a wasteland. The careful gardens where human and alien plants grew side by side were burning. The schools where children learned each other's languages were collapsing. The hospitals where doctors of all species healed the sick were already gone. The Vorthak are afraid of what we represent," So-young said, her voice getting stronger despite the chaos. "They're afraid that if species work together, if we share knowledge and culture and friendship, then their empire of fear and separation will crumble." Kim Hae-jin appeared in the doorway, carrying 2 wounded Chitauri children. His clothes were torn and bloody, but he was still helping others. "So-young, we need to go. The building won't last much longer." "1 more minute," she called back, then returned to the camera. "To anyone receiving this message, remember what happened here. Remember that humans and aliens died together because they refused to hate each other. Remember that we proved cooperation is possible." The building shook again. Cracks appeared in the walls. Kim Hae-jin was loading refugees into an underground shelter, but everyone knew it wouldn't protect them for long. "Remember us," So-young said, looking directly into the camera. "Remember what we built together. Don't let them destroy what we proved was possible." The transmission cut off as the communication center collapsed. So-young and Kim Hae-jin managed to reach the underground shelter with 30 other survivors. For 6 hours they huddled in the darkness while the surface world died above them. When the bombardment finally stopped, Kim Hae-jin was the first to venture outside. The shelter door opened onto a landscape of glass and ash. New Sol was gone. The purple sky was black with smoke. The beautiful buildings were melted ruins. The mixed gardens were craters filled with poison. "Is anyone alive up there?" asked Dr. Veltar from inside the shelter. The Viridian's crystal body had cracked from fear and stress. Kim Hae-jin looked across the wasteland that had once been home to millions of beings. He saw no movement, heard no sounds except the wind blowing through the ruins. "No," he said simply. "We're alone." The 31 survivors stayed in the shelter for 3 days, sharing their meager supplies. When their food ran out, they tried to reach other underground facilities. They found some, but most were empty or collapsed. In total, only 200 beings had survived the massacre. 200 out of more than 2 million. On the 4th day, a rescue ship from Earth arrived. Captain Jiang Wubin had been monitoring emergency frequencies when he received So Young's final transmission. He had disobeyed orders to come to New Seoul, knowing he would probably arrive too late. "This is Earthship Courage." His voice echoed across the dead planet. "Any survivors, please respond." Kim Hae-jin activated an emergency beacon. Soon shuttles were landing near the few intact shelters. The rescue teams wore protective suits against the radiation and toxic air. Captain Jiang helped Kim Hae-jin into the shuttle. "How many others?" he asked. "About 200 total," Kim Hae-jin replied. "That's all that's left." As the shuttle lifted off, Kim Hae-jin looked down at the ruins of New Seoul. Somewhere in that wasteland were the bodies of his friends, his colleagues, his dreams. The Vorthak had killed more than just people. They had murdered the idea that different species could live together in peace. But as Earth grew larger in the view screen, Kim Hae-jin remembered So Young's final words. "Remember what we built. Don't let them destroy what we proved was possible." He would remember. And somehow, someway, the galaxy would learn that destroying humanity's peaceful dreams was the biggest mistake the Vorthak could have made. The Earth Council chamber had never been so quiet. President Choi Dong-min stood at the podium, watching the faces of 300 representatives from human colonies across the galaxy. Behind him, a massive screen showed the smoking ruins of New Seoul Colony. "Ladies and gentlemen," Choi began, his voice echoing in the silent chamber. "3 days ago, we lost 2.3 million human citizens. They died because they believed in peace. They died because they chose cooperation over fear." The recording of Lee So-young's final transmission played for the council. Her voice, calm and determined even as her world burned around her, filled the chamber. "Remember us. Remember what we built together. Don't let them destroy what we proved was possible." When the recording ended, the chamber remained silent. Many representatives had tears in their eyes. Others stared at their hands, unable to process the scale of the loss. New Seoul had been humanity's proudest achievement, and now it was just a graveyard. "The species responsible calls itself the Vorthak Dominion," Choi continued. "They consider cooperation between different species to be contamination. They believe in purity through separation, strength through domination. They have declared war on everything we stand for." Representative Kim Soo-jin from the Alpha Centauri colonies stood up. "Mr. President, what can we do? Our defense forces are designed for exploration and rescue missions. We have maybe 500 ships across all human space. The Vorthak have thousands." Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. For 200 years, humanity had expanded peacefully across the galaxy. They had traded with alien species, shared knowledge, and built colonies based on cooperation. Military force had seemed unnecessary when diplomacy worked so well. President Choi looked toward the back of the chamber. "Admiral Yoon Hyo-jin, please step forward." An elderly woman in a crisp military uniform walked to the podium. Admiral Yoon was small and quiet, the kind of person who could disappear in a crowd. Most council members had forgotten she even existed. The Space Defense Force was considered a ceremonial organization, mainly responsible for asteroid deflection and search and rescue operations. "Admiral Yoon," President Choi said, "please tell the council about Project Sleeping Giant." The chamber stirred with confusion. No one had ever heard of any project with that name. Admiral Yoon stepped up to the microphone, her weathered face serious. "Honored representatives," she began, 150 years ago, when humanity first made contact with alien species, we faced a choice. We could trust completely, or we could prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. The image showed a massive space station hidden inside an asteroid. "We chose to prepare," Admiral Yoon continued. "In 847 locations across human space, we have been building the largest military fleet in galactic history. Project Sleeping Giant has been secretly constructing warships for 150 years. The council erupted in shouts and questions. "Impossible. Why weren't we told? How could you hide this?" Admiral Yoon waited for quiet. The fleet consists of 500,000 Aurora-class battleships and 2 million support vessels. Each battleship is equipped with weapons technology reverse-engineered from our peaceful alien allies. The artificial intelligence systems are more advanced than anything currently known in the galaxy. Representative Kim Soo-jin stood again, her face pale. 500,000 battleships? That's larger than all other species fleets combined. Yes, Admiral Yoon replied simply. Every colony world, every trade route, every diplomatic mission has been protected by these hidden forces. The peaceful expansion of humanity was only possible because we had the strength to defend it. President Choi took the microphone back. The ships have been waiting in hibernation mode, powered down and hidden. Most of their crews are in cryogenic sleep. We hope never to wake them. Seo Jiwoo, the director of Galactic Intelligence, stepped forward. She was a sharp-faced woman who seemed to know everyone's secrets. The Vorthak made a critical error, she said. They attacked the most militarily powerful species in the galaxy, while that species was voluntarily restraining itself. How long to activate the fleet? Asked Representative Park Young-ho from the Mars colonies. Admiral Yoon checked her datapad. The activation codes are being transmitted now. Full mobilization will take 72 hours. Admiral Lim Sun-hee is already bringing the first battle group online at the Titan shipyards. On the display, images appeared of massive ships emerging from hidden bases. The Aurora-class battleships were beautiful and terrible, sleek vessels that looked like silver daggers ready to cut through space. Each ship was 2 kilometers long and armed with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Where have these ships been hiding? Asked Representative Oh Min-soo. Everywhere, Seo Jiwoo replied. Inside asteroids, behind gas giant moons, and nebulae where sensors can't detect them. Some are buried under the surface of uninhabited planets. Others are floating in deep space disguised as space debris. Nam Kyung-soo, the chief engineer who had designed the Aurora-class ships, spoke from his seat. Each battleship has a crew of 5,000. The AI systems can operate the ships independently if necessary. The weapon systems include plasma cannons, antimatter torpedoes, and gravitational pulse generators. The Council was struggling to understand the magnitude of what they were hearing. For their entire lives, they had believed humanity was a peaceful species that relied on diplomacy and cooperation. Now they were learning that humanity had secretly built the most powerful military force in galactic history. Why the secrecy? Asked Representative Lee Hana from the Proxima Centauri system. President Choi answered. Because the moment other species learned about our true military capabilities, everything would change. We would go from being trusted partners to being feared overlords. We wanted to remain the peaceful humans who chose cooperation over conquest. Until someone forced our hand, Admiral Yoon added grimly. The Vorthak have awakened something that was meant to sleep forever. The chamber's main screen switched to show real-time footage from around human space. At the Titan shipyards near Saturn, massive hangar doors were opening to reveal rows of battleships. In the asteroid belt, hidden bases were coming online. Around distant colonies, ships that had been disguised as mining platforms were revealing their true nature. Admiral Lim Sun-hee appeared on the communication screen. She was a tall woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat training. Mr. President, the first battle group is 70% operational. 100,000 ships will be ready for deployment in 18 hours. Thank you, Admiral, President Choi replied. Continue with activation procedures. Representative Kim Soo-jin raised her hand again. Mr. President, what are our intentions? Are we going to invade Vorthak space? The chamber fell silent again. This was the question everyone wanted answered. Humanity had the power to destroy the Vorthak Dominion. But what would that make them? The Vorthak massacred our people, President Choi said slowly. They murdered innocent aliens who had committed no crime except living peacefully alongside humans. They have declared that cooperation between species is an abomination that must be cleansed from the galaxy. He paused, looking around the chamber at the representatives of humanity's far-flung colonies. We will not become conquerors, he continued. We will not rule over other species through fear. But we will ensure that what happened to New Sol never happens again. The Vorthak Dominion will learn that there are consequences for genocide. Admiral Yoon stepped forward again. The fleet will depart for Vorthak space in 7 days. Our objective is not conquest but justice. We will dismantle their military capabilities and ensure they can never again threaten peaceful worlds. And after that? Asked Representative Park Young-ho. President Choi looked at the image of New Sol's ruins still displayed behind him. After that, the galaxy will know that humanity chose peace, but we have never been helpless. We built the greatest fleet in galactic history, hoping never to use it. The Vorthak forced us to prove that our peaceful nature was a choice, not a weakness. As the council session ended, representatives hurried to contact their home colonies. Across human space, the truth was spreading. Humanity was not the weak, peaceful species that other aliens had assumed. They were patient, careful, and devastatingly prepared. In the Vorthak Empire, War Commander Thekvar was receiving reports from his intelligence officers. The humans were mobilizing a fleet, but his analyst assured him it couldn't be larger than a few thousand ships. Humans were weak, they said. The easy conquest of New Sol proved it. Thekvar had no idea that 500,000 human battleships were coming for him, and that each one carried the memory of every life he had destroyed. Admiral Lim Sun-hee stood on the bridge of the battleship Eternal Justice, watching 100,000 ships form perfect battle lines in space. The first battle group stretched across millions of kilometers, a silver tide of human engineering and determination. Each Aurora-class battleship hummed with deadly energy, ready to carry justice to the Vorthak Empire. "Admiral, all ships report ready for hyperspace jump," announced Captain Jang Wubin from the communications station. He had volunteered to serve on the Admiral's flagship after rescuing the survivors from New Sol. The memory of that dead world burned in his mind like fuel for vengeance. "Thank you, Captain," Admiral Lim replied. She was a veteran of dozens of peacekeeping missions, but this was different. For the first time in her career, humanity was going to war. Around Earth's solar system, the other battle groups were completing their mobilization. Admiral Oh Jin-woo commanded the second battle group from the battleship Righteous Fury. His ships had emerged from hidden bases throughout the outer planets, surprising alien observers who had no idea such massive facilities existed. Admiral Kim Ye-jin led the third battle group from the battleship Unbreakable Will. Her forces had been concealed in the asteroid belt, disguised as mining operations for decades. Now they revealed their true purpose as instruments of human justice. Admiral Bae Ho-sung's fourth battle group assembled near Jupiter, led by the flagship Undying Memory. These ships had been hidden in the gas giant's moons, waiting for a day that everyone hoped would never come. Admiral Park Mi-young commanded the fifth battle group from the battleship Final Answer. Her fleet had been the most deeply hidden, buried in ice on distant moons and floating in nebulae where no sensors could detect them. Each battle group was larger than most alien species' entire space forces. Together, they represented the largest military mobilization in galactic history. The alien diplomatic community was in chaos. Ambassador Velnoth, the Viridian representative to Earth, stood in his crystal-walled office watching the human fleet assemble. For 50 years, he had worked alongside humans, believing them to be gentle philosophers who preferred discussion to violence. "How long have they been hiding this from us?" he asked his aide, a younger Viridian named Siltar. "The intelligence reports suggest at least a century and a half," Siltar replied, his crystal body pulsing with nervous energy. "Our analysts are trying to understand how they kept it secret for so long." Ambassador Velnoth had attended the memorial service for New Sol Colony just days before. He had seen human leaders weeping for their dead, calling for peace and understanding. Now those same leaders were unleashing a war machine that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. In the Thalassen embassy, Ambassador Flowing Deep Current was having similar thoughts. His silver skin rippled with anxiety as he watched news reports of human battleships emerging from hiding places throughout the solar system. "They never lied to us," he told his staff, "but they never told us the whole truth either." The Chitauri representative, Ambassador Six-Wings Flying, clicked her mandibles nervously as she composed a message to her home world. "The humans are not what we thought," she transmitted. "They are far more dangerous and far more prepared than anyone imagined. Some alien species felt betrayed by humanity's deception. Others, remembering human kindness and cooperation over the decades, offered their support. The Altarian Confederacy opened their space lanes to human ships. The Rigel Assembly provided intelligence about Vorthak movements. The Deneb Commonwealth offered medical supplies and logistical support. But many species simply watched in fear, realizing they had been living next to the galaxy's apex predator, while it pretended to be herbivorous. General Han Sung-min, humanity's greatest military strategist, worked around the clock in the Strategic Planning Center on Earth. His holographic maps showed every known Vorthak system, every enemy base, every potential target. The war would not be a simple battle but a carefully orchestrated campaign designed to dismantle an entire empire. The Vorthak have approximately 15,000 ships spread across 200 star systems. He explained to the assembled fleet commanders via secured transmission. They control 57 worlds directly and extract tribute from another 130 systems. Colonel Shin Eun-ji, the logistics coordinator, added her analysis. Their industrial capacity is concentrated in 12 key systems. If we neutralize their shipyards and manufacturing centers, they cannot replace losses or sustain a long campaign. Dr. Kang Yuri, the psychological warfare specialist, had studied Vorthak culture for years. They respect only strength, she said. They will not surrender until they understand that continued resistance means complete annihilation. The plan that emerged was called the Long Hunt. Instead of seeking a single decisive battle, the human fleet would systematically dismantle Vorthak civilization piece by piece. It would be thorough, methodical, and absolutely terrifying to any species watching. Admiral Oh Jinwoo's second battle group would strike first, cutting off all Vorthak trade routes and communication relays. No enemy ship would move without human permission. No message would leave Vorthak space. Admiral Kim Ye-jin's third battle group would target industrial facilities. Every shipyard, mining operation, and manufacturing center would be destroyed. The Vorthak war machine would be systematically dismantled. Admiral Bae Ho-sung's fourth battle group would engage enemy fleets when they tried to respond. The human ships carried technology that most species couldn't comprehend, weapons derived from peaceful alien allies who had shared their knowledge and trust. Admiral Park Mi-young's fifth battle group would liberate conquered worlds, freeing enslaved species while demonstrating that this was human justice, not alien liberation. Admiral Lim's first battle group would coordinate the campaign and deliver the final blow to the Vorthak home systems. As the fleets prepared for departure, Captain Yang Wubin walked through the crew quarters of the Eternal Justice. He met Commander Lee Da-eun, a tactical genius who had designed new combat strategies specifically for fighting the Vorthak. Her plans were coldly efficient, calculated to minimize human losses while maximizing enemy suffering. Major Kwon Tae-ho led the special forces teams that would hunt down war criminals. His soldiers were volunteers from every human colony, united by their desire to see justice done for New Seoul. Dr. Ryu Min-jung worked in the medical bay, developing non-lethal weapons for liberating enslaved populations. She understood that the goal was justice, not genocide, even though the distinction might be lost on the Vorthak. In his private quarters, Kim Hae-jin, the survivor from New Seoul, worked on upgrading the fleet's communication systems. He had joined the expedition as a civilian contractor, driven by the need to ensure that the voices of the dead would be heard across the galaxy. The departure ceremony was broadcast to every human world. President Choi Dong-min spoke from the steps of the Earth Council building, with the flags of all human colonies flying behind him. Today, we send our children into the darkness between stars, he said, his voice carrying to billions of listeners. We do not send them as conquerors but as defenders. We do not seek empire but justice. The Vorthak chose to murder our peaceful colonists. They will learn that humanity's mercy has limits. The 5 battle groups departed on schedule, their hyperspace jumps creating brilliant flashes of light visible from Earth's surface. 500,000 ships vanished into the void, carrying with them the combined fury of humanity's scattered children. In Vorthak space, War Commander Thekvar received reports of human fleet movements from his scouts. His intelligence officers estimated the human force at perhaps 5,000 ships, a respectable showing but nothing the Dominion couldn't handle. Deploy the border fleets to intercept them, he ordered. Show these weak humans what happens to species that challenge the Vorthak Dominion. Thekvar had no idea that 100,000 human battleships were already heading for his borders, each one more powerful than his flagship. Behind them came 400,000 more, along with 2 million support vessels carrying supplies for a war that would reshape the galaxy. The hunt was beginning, and humanity was patient, prepared, and absolutely merciless. The Vorthak Border Patrol never saw death coming. Commander Gekvar was reviewing supply reports when his sensors detected hyperspace signatures. 12 human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kethlon system. Only 12 ships? Gekvar laughed to his crew. The humans send children to fight the Dominion. His amusement died when the human vessels opened fire. The weapons were unlike anything in Vorthak records. Plasma beams that could cut through military-grade armor like paper. Gravitational pulse generators that crushed enemy ships from the inside. Antimatter torpedoes that left nothing but empty space where warships used to be. In 30 seconds, Gekvar's patrol fleet of 40 ships was completely destroyed. The human vessels continued deeper into Vorthak space, leaving no survivors to report what had happened. This scene repeated itself across the border. Admiral Oh Jin-woo's second battle group moved like ghosts through Vorthak territory, destroying communication relays and sensor stations. Within 6 hours, the entire Dominion was cut off from the outside galaxy. No messages could enter or leave Vorthak space. Admiral Oh watched the tactical display from his flagship, Righteous Fury. Each destroyed relay appeared as a red X on the holographic map. Soon the entire border was marked in red. "Sir, all communication nodes in the target area have been neutralized," reported Captain Song Min-ki. "The Vorthak are completely isolated." "Excellent," Admiral O replied. "Begin Phase 2. Target all hyperspace beacons and navigation aids." The human fleet moved deeper into enemy territory, systematically destroying everything that allowed Vorthak ships to navigate between star systems. Soon, enemy vessels would be trapped in their home systems, unable to coordinate or call for help. 300 light-years away, Admiral Kim Ye-jin's third battle group was implementing the industrial destruction phase. Her target was the Morthek shipyards, the largest military construction facility in the Dominion. "Admiral, we're detecting massive defensive positions around the shipyards," reported Commander Yoon Dong-ho from the sensor station. "Approximately 300 ships and orbital defense platforms." Admiral Kim studied the tactical display. The Morthek system was heavily fortified as expected, but the Vorthak had built their defenses to fight other Vorthak-level technology, not human weapons derived from peaceful alien allies. "All ships, advance to attack positions," Admiral Kim ordered. "Remember, our goal is complete destruction of industrial capacity. Leave nothing that can build warships." The battle was devastating and one-sided. Human plasma cannons reached through Vorthak shields like they didn't exist. Gravitational weapons crushed defense stations into twisted metal. The Aurora-class battleships moved through enemy fire without taking significant damage. Within 4 hours, the Morthek shipyards were gone. Massive construction facilities that had built Vorthak warships for centuries were now floating debris. The orbital factories that produced weapons and ammunition were vaporized. Even the asteroid mining operations that provided raw materials were systematically destroyed. As Admiral Kim's fleet moved to the next target, they left behind a system that would never again contribute to the Vorthak war machine. The pattern continued across Dominion space. Admiral Bae Ho Sung's 4th Battle Group hunted down enemy fleets, destroying them with overwhelming technological superiority. The Vorthak had built their ships for fighting other aggressive species. They had no defense against human weapons that bent the laws of physics. At the Battle of Zekthari, Admiral Bae faced the largest Vorthak fleet ever assembled. War Commander Tekvar himself led 3,000 ships against what he thought was a small human force. "Today we crush these weak humans," Tekvar declared to his fleet. "Show them the true meaning of Vorthak strength." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 3,000 Vorthak ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet lost 12 vessels to accidents and navigation errors. Not a single human ship was destroyed by enemy fire. Captain Jang Woo-bin, serving aboard Admiral Bae's flagship Undying Memory, watched Tekvar's command ship limp away from the battle with most of its weapons destroyed. "Should we pursue and finish them?" he asked. Admiral Bae shook his head. "No, let them escape. I want Tekvar to return to his leaders and tell them what human technology can do. Fear is sometimes more effective than destruction." While the military campaigns continued, Admiral Park Mi-young's 5th Battle Group began liberating conquered worlds. Their first target was Veltara, a planet where the Vorthak had enslaved the native Silmari people. Dr. Ryu Min-jung had prepared special weapons for these missions. Instead of destroying everything, the human ships used neural disruptors that rendered Vorthak soldiers unconscious without permanent harm. The goal was to free enslaved populations, not to massacre their oppressors. All Vorthak forces on Velthara. This is Admiral Park Mi-young of the Human Liberation Fleet. she broadcast to the planet's surface. You have 30 minutes to surrender and evacuate. After that time, we will consider any armed Vorthak to be enemy combatants. Major Quan Tejo led the ground assault with 10,000 human Marines. They moved through Vorthak positions like shadows, using advanced technology to neutralize enemy forces without killing them. The goal was justice, not revenge. The Silmari people emerged from their forced labor camps in amazement. They had been slaves for 50 years, working in mines and factories for their Vorthak masters. Now strange beings called humans were setting them free. "Why do you help us?" asked Elder Yilmara, the surviving leader of the Silmari resistance. "Because what happened to you was wrong," Major Quan replied through his translator. "No species should enslave another, but you are not Silmari. We cannot repay you for this kindness." Major Quan thought of New Soul Colony, of the children who had played together in the streets before the Vorthak came. Help your people rebuild their lives. That's payment enough. As the 5th Battle Group moved from world to world, liberating enslaved populations, word began to spread through the Dominion. The humans were not just destroying military targets. They were systematically dismantling the entire Vorthak system of conquest and oppression. Kim Hae-jin, working aboard Admiral Lim's flagship Eternal Justice, monitored communications from the liberated worlds. The freed populations were calling humans the Justice Bringers and the Chain Breakers. Songs were being written about human Marines who fought without hatred, who freed slaves without asking for tribute. "Admiral," Kim reported to Admiral Lim, "we're receiving messages from 17 different species. They're asking for our help in liberating their homeworlds." Admiral Lim studied the requests. Each one represented a world conquered by the Vorthak, a population enslaved or oppressed. "How many ships would we need to free all of them?" "Approximately 200,000, ma'am. We could do it with 3 battle groups working in coordination." "Make it happen," Admiral Lim ordered. "Every world the Vorthak conquered will be liberated. Every species they enslaved will be freed." Back in Vorthak space, panic was spreading through the Dominion's leadership. Supreme War Leader Graktor received reports from across his empire. Communication networks destroyed. Industrial centers vaporized. Fleets annihilated. Slave worlds liberated. "How many ships do the humans have?" he demanded from his intelligence officers. "Our estimates range from 10,000 to 50,000, Supreme Leader," replied Intelligence Master Velkoth. "But their technology is far more advanced than our projections indicated." Graktor studied the tactical displays showing human advances across his empire. In 6 months, the humans had accomplished what would normally take years of conventional warfare. "Recall all fleets to the core systems," he ordered. "We'll make our stand at the home worlds." But even as he spoke, Graktor knew the truth that his officers were afraid to tell him. The Vorthak Dominion was not fighting a war. They were experiencing systematic extermination of their military capabilities by a species they had fatally underestimated. Admiral Lim Sun-hee received the final battle orders from Earth Command. The core Vorthak systems were heavily defended, but intelligence suggested that enemy morale was collapsing. Many Vorthak commanders were surrendering rather than face human weapons. "All battle groups prepare for the final phase," Admiral Lim transmitted to her fellow commanders. "The Vorthak homeworlds lie ahead. Remember New Soul, remember our dead. Show them that humanity's justice is patient, thorough, and absolutely inevitable." 500,000 human battleships began their final advance toward the heart of the Dominion. Behind them lay a trail of liberated worlds and broken fleets. Ahead waited the reckoning that War Commander Thekvar had earned when he chose to massacre innocent colonists. The hunt was almost over.